Hi, I'm Laurie Allan-Franks, and I'm here at Movida in Vancouver. We are a sewing and design studio, and we've been here about 13, 14 years. I'm here with Sam. She's my main instructor at the studio, and she's been with me now for almost 5 years. We decided to start a podcast because we teach sewing and teach sewing to kids and adults, but we also do. We also have a lot of great discussions about all the things that have to do with sewing and creating and teaching and people. And we're always having these really long conversations about the environment and recycling and our expectations of that. And then we talk about neurodivergency all the time and the kids and relationships with the parents. So we're calling it sociology because we sort of think it's based around sewing because that's what we like, but it could be really about any creative endeavor and about sharing that knowledge with others and what that's like. I'm also a business owner and lived in Vancouver forever, and I have neurospicy kids, and I've had 3 or 4 different businesses, so I guess an entrepreneur. And so we thought we would talk about some of those things in case that might be helpful. So I think that's pretty good.
That's excellent. That's excellent. So the question that I'm presenting to you today is very topical because while I've been here at the very least, I've seen 4 or 5 sewing studios close down in BC. And I'm sure you've seen a lot open up and a lot close, and you've been here the whole time. But the other thing that's kind of happening that a lot of people are talking about is Joann's. So we don't have Joann's here in Canada, but I'm from the States and I grew up with Joann's. And we, previous when Joann's was happening, would drive down and go shop at Joann's because it was the store.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
I'm hearing a lot about the gap in sewing stores because Joann's kind of ate when it was starting. It ate all the local sewing businesses. So now people are kind of scrounging around to actually find fabric stores. And then as it ate fabric stores, because there were less fabric stores in the area, then the quality of the fabric, that this is a lot of the things that people complain about, the quality of fabric at Joann's kind of diminished. So it was a large selection, and then it shrunk and it shrunk. And then all the drama happened with them selling the business and then going bankrupt and then trying to fix it and then going bankrupt again. And now everyone has nothing. So I thought that you would have a lot of insight on how hard it is to run a sewing business, and had some thoughts about Joann's in general.
Okay, for sure. The running of a sewing
studio.
The running of a sewing studio is really difficult but easy at the same time, and I'll tell you why. Because I came into the business later in life, so I had already been self-employed. I'd had another business that was like a franchise business. I had some experience, so. And I took a business course before I came. And I had a full business plan. So from my other businesses in the past, I had never done that. So I mapped out a 5-year business plan as if I was going to look for funding. So I didn't really need the funding at the time, but I mapped it out. And I think that that's really, really important because it makes you look at the whole business as a whole. And I know that lots of people who start businesses, especially if you're starting a business where it's your craft or it's your trade and then you just turn it into a business, you don't really think about that business plan and you don't consider how much you're worth when you're doing it, right? It's like, my time's free. And I see that lots with people coming in, I'm going to start my own line and I'm going to do this. And we talk about costing and they're like, but I'm free. And that's you're not free, because as soon as you try and offload that to somebody else, there's no profit.
Yeah.
So a good sort of business plan. But the flip side of that is that we never met any of our targets. So even no matter how good my business plan was or how good my marketing was, we took a very long time to get to a sustainable level. And I was lucky enough that I was able to float on my, basically on my savings, float on my savings and pinch and scrimp to get through those times that we weren't really making that much money or not making it sustainable. It is still a really difficult business to run in that way because Vancouver is a very expensive place to live. And all of my staff are so qualified and overqualified. And even I always say about myself, it's like if I had gone into the medical field, I would be a brain surgeon for how much experience I have, how much teaching, how much schooling, right? Like so much. And yet I do sewing and it's considered like not very valuable.
Yeah.
So that is always the crux, right?
Yeah.
Is to how to pay everyone. And then, of course, rents are high, yada, yada, right? And then charging the students. And that is another thing that's really challenging because I would give it away for free. You would too. We would teach all the time. We have no desire to even charge. And whenever I hear someone saying, oh, my kid can't come because it's too expensive, it completely breaks my heart because I think it is such a great thing to get into. And I was just going to mention, because it's coming in my head, is that it's really interesting because when parents are looking at this for their kids, they are really looking at it as an expense, right? They're looking at piano lessons or tutoring lessons, and they see all these expensive, which I get. But then when adults take the class, they never really see it as an expense. They see it like an investment in something that they want to do, an investment in getting some skills to be able to maybe save some money or do something.
Right.
So it definitely is two different perspectives on what has value and what doesn't. So I always try and put to the parents, if they're sort of like humming and hawing, that there's just like so much more offered than just sewing, like so much more offered than just the sewing. And certainly for students that have trouble in other areas, and we'll probably get into that later, this is like a great like ego boosting or like self-fulfilling, not self-fulfilling, but like they get so much ego from it, right? Or so much self-confidence from being able to do this thing where they might have not had confidence in other areas. And that was certainly the case for me when I started sewing, right? It's like, oh, I can do this and I don't have to be able to spell or sit still or read or whatever. I can just like go ahead and do it. So what else made the success of like running a business? Yeah, so really good business plan. Oh, another one that I was told, I read like every business manual, was to make sure that you outsource any job within the business that takes a degree to do. So like, don't do your own accounting because an accountant has a degree. Don't do any of your own lawyering. Don't do anything of your own real estate. Buck up and pay the price if you can, because if somebody's got a degree in that area, it probably has some finesse and some things that you should let them take care of.
I can't imagine you doing accounting.
No. Well, and I did a little bit for some of my other businesses, and my husband was self-employed and he did, and it was disastrous, like totally. Because especially if you're a creative type, you're not paying your taxes. You have to wait to the end of the year. You're pushing it off. You're not balancing your budget. And someone to come down and also to understand, like my accountant, Ben. I love Ben and I love him so much because it was like a pep talk. He was like, well, you're not making money here, but I see your strengths here and your income is here. And I've helped other businesses and I see that you might not be charging enough here. Like he gave me some business advice and some business scenarios. Like not all accountants will, but he was really instrumental in saying, if you raise your prices this way and analyze, or just tell me like analyze how many students you might have or might not have if the prices go up. So he was at least allowed me to make informed choices about the financial side of the business. And it was nice to offload that to somebody.
Yeah.
Because if I wasn't, even though he was expensive, if I wasn't offloading it, the expense would have been greater. And I think that's what that advice is that your own terrible advice, if it's a profession, your own advice is not so good. So that's good to have someone else do it. What else did we do that made us successful? Good people, right? Like hiring really good people.
That needs to be a whole video on its own, because I've been here for a while and we've hired 4 or 5 times. That's a whole thing to find the right person. I think a little bit of it too is luck, because you've talked before about opening another chain in West Vancouver.
Because the whole idea when I came, because I had come from a franchise, like working, was to start a franchise. So that was my whole thing. I was like, we'll build this business. And that's sort of some of the funny changes are left. But we'll build the business from ground up as a franchise. So like everything had manuals when we started, and the environment was reproducible, right? So that's why we have lots of IKEA things and other things. It was like, oh, if I open a franchise, I can like replace everything and make everything doable. And so that was our goal. And I was following another model of like the franchise that I came from. So the idea was we'll open 1 or 2 more La Movidas under my supervision, and then we'll start to sell franchises, because the franchise person that I was following had 5, I guess, locations for like 2 or 3 years. And then 5 years later, she had like 60 of them. Yeah. So I was like, let's do that. Yeah. But there's 2 funny things in that story is that sewing it can be a bit nichey, right? Because it falls sometimes in 2 camps. It falls as like a trade. Yeah. And so as a trade, your parents who are looking to do stuff with their kids don't feel the value when they look at it as a trade. Yeah. And then flip side, that it's not artsy enough, like an art program or like a piano lesson or something. So it doesn't fall in it's not artsy enough, right? So feelings. Like, yeah. So you go, oh, I'll go send my kid to art classes because they're going to learn about Picasso and all that. And that's good for dinner parties later or whatever, even if they're not going to be painters, but it gives them a good like world view.
I think some of that is the monetary incentive that's applied to those crafts, right? When you picture someone selling a Rembrandt, they're gonna spend millions of dollars to keep that in their house, but it's pretty rare, unless you're an Hermes bag, that you're going to sell your clothing for $1 million. So it may be a bit more luxurious to be a painter, even though I think it can be a lot harder to be a painter. I know some painters. Yeah,
well, and here's the thing is that my background was fine arts as well. So I was painting and doing all that. And my challenge was that I'm making all these paintings, and now I have like thousands of dollars invested in paint and frames and canvas and all this, and they're all just piled up against the wall, right? Like I didn't really sell that many. I'm a new artist, and so I have tons of them. And then when I sort of switched more of my focus, and I always sew, but more of my focus is sewing, then I had new slip covers for my couch. I had new pillows. I had new drapes. I had a new wardrobe. I had placemats and table runners. Like I had all of these things. And so I got to surround myself with my art, still spending about the same, but then I got all of this like other things. And that seemed more useful to me. Mm. And so I saw as a young person, I was in my 20s, I saw the value more in that than my paintings that were leaning up against the wall. So that was my switch. I guess if I had been a great artist or something, then maybe I wouldn't have gone that way. But my paintings were not selling.
Okay.
My artwork was.
I want a little intermission just in case people are not watching the video and instead are just listening to your lovely voice. I want to talk about your outfit. So you got to describe your outfit from bottom up and where you got it and what you did. To the best of your ability, pretending that we're blind and we can't see.
Okay, blind and can't see. Okay, so I think this will be one of the things for the visual is that I'm not dressed up for this video today per se. Wow. In that I dress every single day for work. Yes, and it's kind of ironic that I spend about an hour to get dressed every morning because I love it and I love clothes. And so I'm always way overdressed for work. Mm-hmm. But in the environment of the studio, it works. It's just that when I have to go for a loaf of bread or something, and then I'm out there in the real world, I'm like, ooh, maybe this is like more than dreary Vancouver can take. But I always get tons of compliments. It drives my kids crazy. But like everybody always comments on my outfit, which is kind of fun. A little annoying sometimes, but like lots of fun. So today I have on a fuchsia. Is it fuchsia, I guess? It's La Movida pink anyway.
It's La Movida pink.
Yeah. So I have a pink cashmere sweater on that's from Aritzia.
Oh, okay.
And I got it at the Aritzia sale.
Nice.
So way cheap. I don't think I ever buy
Do you have
anything.
any moth holes in it?
No, because this one's newer. No moth holes in this one yet. The jacket is a Zara jacket, and it is like, it's chiffon or georgette cut to look like feathers or something, and it's all fluffy and feathery, and it's the same color. It's hot pink or fuchsia or whatever, and it's like a mid-cropped jacket. Again, last Christmas sales, half price, because I only will buy it half price, and I was bitching about it because it's a bit too small. It's a size small, and I really should wear a medium, and so it's a little bit snug when I got a sweater underneath it, but I suffer for fashion. Nobody will know, and that was the only size they had left. I got Fluvog boots on, so these are my Fluvog boots, and they're in metallic pink with like red orange soles, a little platformy. They're so comfy, and I love them. Yeah, and I think... No, I paid full price for these babies.
Yeah, those were your full price ones.
Yeah, those are my full price ones because they match my hair so great. So if you're...
Well, it was also your reward.
Yes, exactly. So I have hot pink hair, or pink hair. It's kind of faded today, and pink glasses. And I'm wearing a pair of jeans. I'm wearing a pair of...
They're excellent.
For the camera, right?
Yeah. And you gotta turn.
Barrel jeans. And there's our little label on them that they're studio jeans, which means I drafted the pattern and made the pants, and they're now part of the collection of patterns that the students can make pants from. So they come in, I think we got 3 or 4 sizes so far, and then we embroidered the pockets with the name on them.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thanks, Jackie. So I have embroidered pockets.
They're so good.
So they're nice and huge and giant size. So I love them. So you can come to the studio and make barrel leg jeans.
Yeah. I'm going to make a pair for sure. I need a pair.
Yes.
Okay.
And you next.
I go. My outfit itself is thrifted, but I'm wearing, I think these are walnuts. What is this? It's got to be some
chestnuts.
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 Some old lady's button-up shirt that I always like tie and wear. And I've had this for quite some time. I've got blue hair, and then on top of my blue hair is this, what is this? A Brixton tan hat with a little cord over top, because this is kind of my train conductor outfit. I like to liken it to. I'm wearing my Percy, which is from Thomas the Train earrings to match my train conductor hat. And I have on a black dress that has like lace at the bottom, as well as my thrifted gym belt that I wear like every day. And then I'm also wearing my Fluvogs because I have to wear my nicest shoes for this podcast. And my Fluvogs I got from Turnabout, but they were half off, and then I got them on sale at Turnabout, so they were additional 10% off. So they were pretty good deal, and they're the green platform cowboy boots. I don't remember the exact name, but that's my outfit.
You actually wear them because they have like rainwater and like puddle juice on them. Mine a tiny bit.
These because they are waterproof. They're all leather and everything, so I can wear them in Vancouver. Because some of my vinyl shoes and that sort of thing, I still wear them in the rain, and some of them are peeling and stuff like that. So they're like one of my only shoes that I can actually wear because they're leather.
I don't go outside.
Well, you just gotta walk.
I gotta go
down
from
the road.
Yeah, I gotta go from the. What is it? It's a Pretender song. It's like from the cab to the curb. That's what I always am. That's as far as I have to walk, from the cab to the curb in my fancy shoes. And if anybody asks me to take my shoes off when I go to their house, I say no. Never.
There's a Sex and the City episode.
I know,
that.
and I quote that Sex and the City if anybody asks me to take off my shoes.
Not trying to get your shoes stolen.
Not getting my shoes stolen. And I know people talk about germs. I just watched it like on the bottom of my feet. But I, myself, am way more offended by people's stinky feet and their sweaty feet and their nasty socks. Like most men, when they take their shoes off, their feet stink. Why do you want to sit around at a dinner party with like stinky feet and some people don't even wear socks, right? With their donks out and their hairy toes and their... Ugh. Put your shoes on. Your great, fantastic shoes.
So when I come over for Christmas party, I'm keeping my shoes on.
You are keeping your shoes on. I have no problem. I like a tidy house. I wash the floors once a week. I have no problem. Bring your dirty shoes in.
Do you wear your shoes at home?
All the time.
Okay. I'm even a shoes-off household, but I have carpet.
Even in my last house, I had carpet. I wear my shoes. It's my outfit. Most of the time, I start with the shoes. I start with the shoes. My husband works in carpentry, so he takes his off, right?
Yeah.
He's out there, so he has outdoor shoes.
Tracking dirt everywhere.
Yes, but like no, I'm not good in socks.
Okay, got it.
So I'm not doing it.
All right.
You asked me another question that I didn't answer.
We were talking about Joann's, and then
We never got to Joann's. You asked me about how I made the studio go. I made a bunch of.
Yeah, because
The last thing I wanted to say was about the studio, because we did open up a second location. Yeah. That was what we did open up a second. That was the end of the story, right? We did open up a second location on the thoughts that we would have a third and a fourth, and we franchised. And the second location was a total flop. And we were there for a year, and I lost my shirt on it. And we signed a 5-year lease, and then I had to continue the lease and be a sub landlord and a subtenant. I paid an instructor for a whole year to be there. We spent $25,000 renovating the space and doing all of this crazy stuff, and nobody showed up. And we had done all of our work on demographics and household income and how many kids and how many public schools and private schools and all this. And we just found that this particular suburb, and it might be true of many suburbs, were not interested in craft in the same way that we are here.
And the other side of that story is that at the time you had tons of North Vancouver people coming over and driving across the bridge, but we still get it. I get kids on Saturdays or even on weekdays. Sometimes they join the adult class because they can't make it here on time, but they'll come all the way across the Lionsgate Bridge through downtown to get here, sometimes after school or early in the morning. One of my girls on Thursday is forever far away, I think all the way up.
But the irony is that we had students from North Van, which was West Van, where we were going.
Yeah.
My kids were going to school over there, so I had like a bit of a community and bit of friends. And we had about at any one time, like 5 to 10 students coming from the North Shore, coming from that direction, coming here. We opened the studio up. Not only did those students that were coming that far not come, but nobody went to the new one. Yeah. So it wasn't like, I'm coming here for a year, now I'm going to transfer. So then we got the idea, like maybe the idea that the studio is in the city or whatever gives it a sexy something, and that the kids from the burbs wanted to come into the city, or the adults wanted to come into the city and felt that was more like, I don't know, that gave us more prestige or something. But we had like no students. And then when I was there, another company started that was a little bit further east, like another sewing studio. And she started up right after we did, like 6 months after we did. And I was a little bit like, hey. Yeah. Well, because also she stole our verbiage off the website, like word for word. She like cut and pasted like our whole website and just put it on hers and put her name on it. So anyways, that was a little bit upsetting. But anyways, no big deal. But then she went out of business.
Yeah.
So there wasn't really any market for what we're doing in those demographics. So that's like so interesting.
Yeah.
So then that made me totally afraid. So I said, no, I'm not going anywhere because I can't do it. So then we expanded here. We got the store next door. So we're twice as big with twice as many opportunities to have students who want to come here. And I blew off the whole franchise thing, said I'm not doing it. And we'll find other avenues to be successful.
I think in some of the ways doing the franchise things because it's still, all the things that you set up at the beginning still exist today. The way we do our curriculum and the way the studio's set up, how it's organized on the inside still continues to have an impact on how we teach classes and how we present to the outside world. So I still think it was really wise to organize the way you did and then structure the classes the way you did, because now we're kind of doing this thing where we're producing the tutorials and that sort of thing, so it's more usable for that. But then it's like, if I leave or if you're not teaching, someone else can do all of it, so it's kind of set up the business to exist without you having to be the lead instructor.
Yeah, so that happened at the beginning, right? Like, this is the way the classroom was set up, and this is the structure of the classroom, and this is the way we teach, and this is the verbiage we use. So we did that so that we could franchise. But now it just gets passed on to the staff and whatnot, like through the through the channels and through now the media channels that we're using the same kind of inclusive language. I guess it's kind of funny because sewing, different than other things, is like some things got sexy, and sewing is maybe, I think, like on the verge of being sexy.
I think it's sexy.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Well, like cooking classes when I was a kid, like nobody did that, right? And then it wasn't really cool to be chefy or cookie, right? Chefy or whatever. And now there's celebrity chefs and it's a big deal. So it didn't used to be that was something. And then I always kid like for like DJs and things like that. Like the kid at school who was the DJ was always like the dork that couldn't dance and would stand by the record player. And now DJs are sexy and people who play music is sexy. I still
think DJs are dorks. We have kind of changed our brain
around that, right? And so there's different things that are cooler or not cooler, right? And I always complain, like my husband watches like car shows, but like how to fix your car and how to do woodworking, and they're like pretty cool shows, right? And there's nothing in our field that's similar. I guess we have like Project Runway.
Yeah, but we can't even keep that on air. It
keeps going. But nobody watches it to watch them actually sew, right? Like they fake the whole thing. And yet my husband watches a guy tinker with a carburetor for like hours on end. So somehow it's like the norm feels sexy or something. I don't know.
Well, and you've described too that like when you were starting this business, people were like, why would you do that? Kids already get taught how to sew in schools. And we know now that the climate on that has completely changed, and a lot of the schools have taken that curriculum away, and it's a very underfunded program. And then we do things a little bit differently than you do at schools. So I think it is sexy now because of how progressively uncommon it's become. So it's way more of a niche, whereas 20 years ago a lot more people had sewing machines in their home, and everyone knew someone who sewed, so it kind of skipped over a generation, and people stopped sewing because it wasn't cool and it was a poor people thing to do. And now people are more interested in sewing because it's seen more as a luxurious thing to spend your time making yourself custom clothes. I think that probably leads into the changing cost in fabric too, because forever ago it used to be cheaper to buy fabric to make your own clothes, whereas now it's more expensive to buy fabric to make your own clothes. So you can buy a t-shirt for $20, but your meter of fabric for your t-shirt is $20.
Yeah, well, because I was going to say, it kind of flip-flops, because there's lots of times now that you could go buy a pair of jeans, for $25, right? You could here in the city, right? You could go to Walmart or whatever.
Yeah.
And the pair of jeans I remember when I bought in grade 8 were $25. Now, they were pretty fancy jeans, but that price in many areas hasn't grown. You can pay $5,000 for a pair of jeans, but I just mean production is big. Asian markets, we get a lot of cheap clothes, and where fabric prices have either stayed the same or gotten, and in the last couple of years, more expensive. And so that line between a handmade wardrobe being super cheap, whereas a bought wardrobe was more expensive, and so that's certainly like my mom's generation. My mother learned how to sew and hated it because it was that idea that handmade clothes were cheaper. You were poor, ready to wear bought clothes were way more were what more affluent people had. And so she never wanted anything that was handmade or made by yourself, and then never understood why I would want to do that. But mine's kind of flip-flop, because mine was never really about so much as wanting to make my own handmade wardrobe. I just needed something to make. I was just always a maker, right? Yeah. I needed a hobby or a craft. So I tried embroidery and knitting and cooking and. But I did land on sewing as being my most favorite thing to do.
I think maybe what we're getting from this then is because there are some successful sewing businesses here in Vancouver that have existed for the duration that you have existed. Spool of Thread, the Stitchery over in Coquitlam, or Port Moody, is it? I think it's Port Moody.
Might be Port Moody.
So, and Dress Sew's been around forever, and I'm sure I'm missing a few others. I think a lot of those businesses, besides, I think the Stitchery, are based around selling fabric. Like Spool of Thread has done really well since COVID because they've done their whole online fabric sales thing and they've made that work. So I think they've shifted away from classes and then come back a little bit. And then I think Jill at the Stitchery has a lot of quilting selection. So she's more of a community space, and then she does classes as well. And then Dress Sew is a staple because it's got all the fabric in the world at all the price ranges and has existed for the film industry and for the fashion industry here in Vancouver, as well as the hobby sewers. But I think the reason why, well, one of the reasons why La Movida has worked is that partially personality. I think, coming to Vancouver, you're a fashion school, and you've always emphasized that you are, you want this place to feel like you are a fashion designer when you come in. So it's not just about, even though we service hobby sewers and that is our priority, and we're not like, a university, you still want the hobby sewers or the kids who come in to feel like they're coming here to be a fashion designer because they are.
Yeah.
So I think then that leans into kind of the luxury, which we've seen the rise in over time, right? You've always kind of held it to, we're fashion designers, this is luxurious. And then, your personality and your presentation is that you are a fashion designer and you're imbuing your knowledge to everyone else, and that sort of thing. So I think that's kind of why it's worked here for so long, because it feels to me, because I've kept my eye on tons of sewing places all over, that sometimes they open and you try to sell fabric and then you try to do classes, but classes really aren't profitable unless you can really fill those seats, and that can be hard to draw people in. So your draw in is the personality, is the presentation, is the luxury of being a fashion designer.
Yeah, I guess, but I I think that how can I say this? It was not so much purposeful, but it was certainly my niche, in that I came to sewing because I wanted to stand out. Like, part of the reason I think it set for me was because I was pretty shy, but I didn't want to be. I wanted to be a little bit more extroverted, and I wanted my personality or my extroversion to be, and I'm going to say this kind of funny, but to be cool enough that I didn't have to really engage.
Yeah.
Right? So I could walk in a room and they go like, oh, she looks pretty cool. She looks da-da-da-da-da. And then I could not have to really talk if I didn't want to.
Yeah.
I could exist without having people to talk or have to be too conversational initially, because I was pretty shy. The other thing is that I was always, as a young person, really heavy, and I couldn't wear the current fashion being heavy and look as good as the other girls. So I couldn't go and buy whatever the trend was because someone was going to look better in it than me. And so I wanted to be like in there, but like in my own way. So I just was like, I'll play off of that rather than into it. So that was a way to not have to. I wasn't very conforming anyways, but I just couldn't fly. I was heavier than everybody else. I was pretty chubby in high school and whatnot. And I was a little fish in a big pond. I lived in a fairly wealthy area where all the kids had all the stuff. like all the cool things. I mean, they came to school in BMWs, and that just wasn't my world. So I was like, I'll just be cool and set myself apart. I'll follow fashion designers so that I can say this is like Vivienne Westwood, or I'm following the London thing, or pick a name and explain that I was high fashion or alternative fashion or whatever in that realm. So when I started to do this, that was just where I was coming from. I wasn't really, I mean, I make all my curtains and pillows and all that, but they're all funky as well. They're not really conservative. But I think when I started to sew here, I get really bored. So like you tease me because I'm always drafting patterns and drafting new things. And I think that has been something that we don't go back and do the same patterns over and over and over. So students who have started here when they're 8 have stayed until they're 16 or 17 because they can always make something new or a variation. And when we've been able to show them that. So it is not like, oh, first year y'all make pajama pants and the next season you make, I don't know, an A-line skirt and then you make this. I was always like, let's put up all the current fashion and let's see how we can take those simple patterns that we know how to make and we can sew and really make them as fashion forward as we possibly can. And then I find that super interesting. And then the students can always do something different. Yeah. And so I think, I mean, it's a detriment because we have 10 billion bolts of miscellaneous fabric around here. I have 250 bespoke patterns in all the sizes and everything, like too many. But it kept it interesting for me and it kept it interesting for the students. Yeah. And it was always a challenge. How can we take these simple shapes, patterns that we have, and how can we take what's hot in fashion or what they're wearing, showing, not in fashion, but at the Aritzias or the H&Ms or whatever, the Zaras that are putting out current fashion, and how can we align ourselves with that as close as we can? And so, and that keeps it interesting for me. And so maybe that's why the students will come back and back and back, because they're contemporary in what they're making.
Yeah, I think me and you are kindred spirits in the sense of like I also was and I still do, I dress to present how I want to present so that people can assume about me without me having to vocalize and be social, and I can just sit in the back room and be a mysterious person with a cool outfit on. And then I think we see a lot of the kids come in and they're just like us. They're a little socially awkward and, maybe a little unsure of themselves, but then they put on their cool outfit and they come to La Movida and they make their cool stuff and they are able to express, all those things they have going on inside outwardly on their body and connect to people in that way. Mm-hmm. And then it's kind of created the space for them to find, each other, make friends and feel like they have their people and their community. So a lot of that is you passing on, creating this safe environment for them to be weird and funky and express themselves. And that really works.
Yeah. And that's like a really kind of like, it's kind of a, what do you call it? A double-edged sword in some ways. Because when we named the company, La Movida aside, whether it was going to be sewing studio or fashion studio or design academy, we were always trying to bridge some sort of communication about that it was about fashion, but not in the you got to wear this or you got to buy this or you have to be something. It was about fashion and like self-expression and maybe color or like costume. So it was about pushing the limits a little bit. So that to me is always fashion rather than clothing. Maybe it's clothing. I don't know. So that's why we stick with the fashion part of it, but it's not my angle is not sort of like consumerism fashion. It's more like self-expression fashion. Yeah. I think. Yeah. Yeah. And we give all the students as many choices as we can. So that's always been the thing, right? Is that if we're making something, there's 10 choices of fabric, and then there's always customizable pieces. Because I've always had this sensitivity that some people can't wear polyester or can't do this or don't feel comfortable or only want to wear black or only want to wear red. You could totally accommodate like whatever anybody feels for their vision. and what they see. And then they're starting to get like an idea of what they like the feel of, or what they like the look of, or what feels comfortable or uncomfortable. And then they can sort of push those limits a little bit.
I think it's excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
Any final words as we wrap this up?
No, but we didn't. We'll have to do it another time. We didn't really talk about getting fabric or the Joann's or the. I mean, you talked a little bit about it, but we can talk about some more about getting.
We'll circle back around.
We'll circle back around to that.
This is more the business this time.
Yeah.
Why La Movida worked.
Yeah. Yeah. We're here forever. Till I'll be like a little skeleton in the chair.
Breakfast at Bernie's. Weekend at Bernie's.